proposed Apex Wind Farm. One thing that really stands out in my mind as far as the ordinance, as far as the zoning change, or the proposed zoning, I should say, Mr. Morrison pointed out one very important thing to me, that most companies commercially don't want to come to the county if we don't have zoning. But yet we have 100 families who just happen to be property owners that want the wind turbines that are going to directly benefit. And then we have 10 people per whatever, per turbine or however many, to take care of this, the whole turbine set within the county. That's great, but if you're already losing 10 other families because they're moving out because the turbines come in, where's the wash at? I mean, where are we gaining anything out of this? We don't want it. I don't want to walk outside my door and look at turbines all the way around. We spent a good majority, we raised our kids here. And it just seems dumb to me that we're talking about bringing in this proposed, I don't care how you want to phrase it, but let's face it, we're all here because of wind. And you're wanting to bring these in when we're already at a point where the commercial side of it's not coming to town. So you have just a number of families that are taking, going directly into it. I believe they talk big as far as the education side, as far as the tax money's coming back. If you're smart enough to be able to get on the internet and read, and I'm not talking about the red flag people that are going nuts about it, I'm talking about just common people that have written about it, that live in these areas. It's great maybe first, but within a few years, it's a done deal. It's over with. So I just want to share that we, my family and I, are going to be living, we're literally have turbines, we'll have, if it comes to fruition, we'll have turbines all around it. Us, and we didn't come here to do this. We have, honestly, to be blunt about it, we've talked about moving. We don't want to walk out and see it. That's not why we moved. That's not why we raised our kids here. I can understand being a landowner and you think that, the money's going to be great in your pocket. But for those of us, what gives that guy that has the property any more right to put this 600-foot turbine on his property than I would on mine? If it's not, in my guess, in the way we've talked about it, at least in our house, how is that more fair for that guy to be able to do that just because he happens to have the land and we don't? Because we don't have that land. So just thoughts for you to think about. Thank you.
David Hadley, I live at 2751 South State Road 47. I support planning, and I appreciate the work that's been done to develop a plan for Montgomery County. I support zoning. I think it is a protection for our property rights, for our property values. When we bought our house on South 47, we did not expect there to be a raceway across the property line. But we live in a 2-mile zone, and that did give us an opportunity to express our concerns and to gain some protections as special exceptions were applied for. And we are in a better place today because of the zoning. It didn't prevent it from happening, but it made it more acceptable and livable for us. So I support planning and zoning. I appreciate the work that's being done on this. I also support renewable energy. I think we have to move in that direction. Perhaps planning and zoning will facilitate the development of compromise that makes it acceptable and livable for people who are nearby. I think that the restrictions that are being proposed in the zoning ordinance and the wind ordinance are unreasonable and in some sense discriminatory against the companies that are trying to bring it in. Just as one piece of anecdotal evidence perhaps, sat in my living room this morning at 6:45 when there was not much going on. I took out my telephone, which has a decimeter app on it. The only sound that I could hear was the furnace fan, which was low and generally unregisterable to my mind. And the decimeter registered at 48. No dogs barking. I couldn't even, and with the windows closed, I couldn't even hear the farm dryer fans blowing. So 48 with nothing going on. 30 is virtually less than ambient noise. So I think that that's unreasonable. But anyway, I think that planning and zoning gives us a way to move forward. I support it. I would hope that you find ways to adjust the wind turbine portion of the plant, or of the ordinance. Thank you.
Harold Bennett, 2972 North Old State Road 55. Just a quick synopsis, I believe what a lot has been said, there's been a lot of good comments from both sides, a lot of real concerns over this. And this is a very important topic in both matters, the wind farms and the zoning. What kind of looks like this evening is the main thing is the planning and zoning. Because if I understood it right in the research that I've done and listened to this before, that this comprehensive plan was brought up, that we have a plan, of which I think the county needs a plan. It needs a sense of direction. It needs to have some continuity to it. But with the wind turbine issue at the front burners, and a lot of people are upset that the zoning issue, of which comprehensive plan was not really about zoning until it was passed, as it's been said before. So now, and then we have some amendments which has been said we can't really review yet. So it's kind of like, if you think back, there was a health issue back a few years back. We said, maybe if we pass it, then we can see what's in it. Are we going to be in that situation? I'm with a lot of the group that says, we can negotiate things, we can talk about things, as long as we keep things open and keep things peaceful. But let's slow this down and don't pass it with one thing in mind, is to kill a company that wants to come in to this county and bring in a large income. Now, as people have stated, there are some detriments to that. There are things that really are concerning. And I'm for wind, but I can also appreciate what they're saying. Multiple times I have asked some of them to share with me their concerns, and they have. And I appreciate that. Some of them are valid, some of them aren't. But we can say the same thing about our views. But the main thing is that we look at the whole picture and we look at it and study it and make sure it's going to benefit what we want it to benefit if we're going to have zoning. So, have a good evening. Thank you.
My name is Mark Chenoweth. I live in Coal Creek Township. My wife and I grew up here, and we moved back a couple years ago. Wow, I didn't realize this was going on. And it didn't take long for me to try to figure out, well, where am I going to land on this? So I did come in with kind of a bias towards economic development is good. And that's my bent now. I'm going to speak only for myself, not the color of the shirt. I started to look at this as there are winners and there are losers. And in issues like this, I know you get stuck in the middle and trying to decide how much is going to happen to each side. And I just tried to frame this in such a way that, so I could get my own head around how do I quantify the win and how do I quantify the lose. And is there a way that the win could happen more across the board? But the way it's set up now, when I look at this, there are 9,000 residences, I'll call them rural homes, outside of Crawfordsville. And, you know, you could say, well, maybe half of those are in Linden and Richmond, and so there's 4,000, 5,000 rural homes. And these people have most of their equity tied up in it. So if a wind tower can bring in $14,000 or so a year, or maybe more with development agreement, but somebody else loses somewhere between 10 and 50% of their value of their home because of the wind turbine, the economics are rough for the one that's losing on that equation. Rough and such that they can't recover from it. The economics, when you look across the U.S., 20% of the people in this county have less than 20% down on their house. So if you have a 20% decrease in property values, you're upside down. If you do that math across this county, I know numbers are numbers, you can push them each way, but all we're going to do is argue about the impact and the significance of it. That would be 1,400 homes that would be underwater. So, you know, where you've written the new ordinance, it starts to take into account how do those folks get compensated. And that's my issue. I'm not against alternative energy. I think it's a good thing. Matter of fact, I don't even look at this as alternative. This is more like it's not a substitute, it just adds to it. It doesn't replace it. But if you did them here, you would be putting some of the tallest towers that have ever been built on land with the shortest setbacks, if we looked at the old ordinance, close to a top 20 percentile density population county. Those three things coming together will make a property value decrease of those, let's say 4,000, 5,000 homes of 20% look extremely conservative. So those people are left extremely vulnerable. And I'll just tell you this, I would not do that to my neighbors.
My name is John Campbell, 1825 North Summer Lane. Regarding the zoning ordinance, what we are doing is increasing bureaucracy. We are adding additional red tape. We are making it harder for the common voter to do what they want to do. We're making things more difficult on your constituents. And all we're doing is slowing government down. Last time I checked, most people didn't really want government to go slow. They're always mad because things go so slow. They want things to go faster. The only time things apparently move fast is when we're trying to get a shove through a shady ordinance. If you really want to know the will of the people and have the guts to put it on a non-binding referendum on the ballot and let people vote for it. And then we can see how the people really feel and we can quit hiding behind comprehensive plans and other things that people maybe didn't really get to have their say on. Thank you.
Hi there, Isaiah Mears, I'm a junior at Wabash College, 505 Jefferson Street. I'll make this pretty quick because unfortunately I have a final CVAC to study for tonight. But to me, the main reason why I'm here tonight is to try and paint the picture and help you understand that bring a cause in this group here, in this business here to this community in this county, we do something that I think most of us don't really realize. I go to an institution here in Montgomery County that produces some really great individuals. We produce a lot of great thinkers, a lot of great businessmen, a lot of great CEOs. However, I would be very interested to see the statistics on how many of those people continue to stay and work in Montgomery County after they graduate from college. And so to be able to bring new jobs here, to be able to bring technology here, to be able to bring a better revenue and income stream to people here, I think it's something we need to take a serious look at. Furthermore, when I take a look at a place like Montgomery County, I want to say, hey, when I graduate here in 2 years, this is a place that I want to raise a family in, right? And so how do we make this county more of an attractive place to people like myself who are graduating from a great school, who have grown up here, who understand the ins and outs of Montgomery County, but are deciding to leave because we just don't see that much upside, you know? And so I really, really want you to heed that and to take that into consideration when moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Seth Howe, 1210 North, 625 East Arlington. Kind of building on what the gentleman said, I might not speak tonight, but grew up here, raised here, my wife and I, kindergarten all the way together. Both sides of our families pretty much here since they settled. Came out of school, went to Purdue, offers all over the country to go work, and I want to be not anywhere besides Arlington, Indiana. And a lot of that is the beauty, the community that I deeply care about, and I think that these wind turbines would be a major detriment to that. We've talked for 2 years now on why. I think you all have heard all the reasons for and against. But I want to speak on behalf of a lot of our friends that have done the same thing, where they've left the community, gone to school, educated, planned to raise a good family, and come back here. Many of those people have said that they will move away if these come. I don't think that what the gentleman said before, you know, I think he was alluding to when coming here, drawing these kind of families to come back or stay. I don't think you're going to see that. I think there's plenty of data out there to show that. In regards to the zoning for this, I've read through it, listened to you guys talk for a couple years of it coming. I see it as a protective thing. I think in the right hands it is a protective thing, and I think as long as all of us keep the people accountable and stay interested, I mean, I think it will be a good thing. I'd argue before the wind issue, I didn't know what a commissioner did. I didn't know what a councilman did. And I think you've seen that probably in your guys' meetings of how many people have come out to participate. So it's an important issue on both sides, but I hope that if people stay involved and stay passionate as they have about the wind issue and, keep these zoning boards accountable, I think it can be a protective thing. There's a number of things I liked in it. The 1 acre things, I think it preserves our field of the agricultural field. Just how the map says, I just don't see it as a restrictive thing. And of course, being anti-turbine, that's my number one thing. I think Bill said it. If somebody put a gun in my head, I'm certainly going to choose no turbines. Well, it doesn't take a gun. I mean, anybody that's been near turbines knows that zoning is not near the threat that turbines is going to be. I think you're going to see people flood out of this county if you allow them to be built. And if it takes zoning to stop them, I think that there's a lot of people that would back that. So, thank you.
Anyone else? All right.
Is it possible to separate the wind turbine and the zoning ordinances into two separate issues?
It's not what we're here to do tonight.
I know that's not what we're here to do tonight, but is it possible? It seems like we have two issues in front of us. One is wind turbines, one is zoning.
We have one issue in front of us tonight, and it's this right here. This is exactly what we're doing, exactly what the people said they wanted.
Anyone else? Okay. Pardon me? All right, hearing no
one else, I'll close the public hearing. 8, whatever it is, or 7:26. So I would entertain a motion from the board.
Based on the Commission's review of the proposed zoning ordinance, public comment, written comments received by the Commission, consideration of the case report, and discussion by the Commission finds as follows. The zoning ordinance is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The zoning ordinance pays reasonable regard to current conditions and the character of current structures and uses in each district by designating zoning districts and uses consistent with its existing use. The zoning ordinance pays reasonable regard to the most desirable use for which land is in each district is adapted. The zoning ordinance promotes the conservation of property values throughout the unincorporated areas of the county by establishing general regulations to promote orderly development, enhancing development standards, mitigating conflicting uses, and protecting landowners from the loss of value due to the placement of wind turbines on adjacent properties. And the zoning ordinance promotes responsible development and growth by requiring review of changes in use which would adversely affect transportation and other infrastructure, drainage, schools, economic development, enjoyment of use of land, and other relevant factors. Based on these findings, I move the Planning Commission send a favorable recommendation to the Montgomery County Board of Commissioners regarding the adoption of this zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second for move to discussion.
All right, we have a second. Open the discussion to the Plan Commission. Anyone have questions or questions you want to defer to Dan or concerns?
Yeah, I saw a lot of references to a zoning administrator. Who exactly is that going to be, and how much are they going to get paid every year?
I don't know, the ordinance only reflects Indiana law. The person who enforces a zoning ordinance is called the zoning administrator. So the commissioners would have to decide that question about who. It could be the building commissioner, although he may not want it. But it could be any, it's just a position, it's a legal term that talks about who administers that. And of course, the council would have to decide how much or if all that person be paid.
Okay. Might have another question. I really think we're moving too fast on this. The plan commission approved the plan to the commissioners on Wednesday. The following Monday, it was approved by the commissioners to accept that. And Wednesday, we had a zoning ordinance of 51 pages, which has been amended a little bit, red lines and all that. I think we're moving way too fast on this. I've always been against the normal zoning ordinances just because you have a group of 5 members on the BZA that can determine what somebody does on their own property. Even if it's not breaking any laws or hurting anybody else, they can still say, no, you're not going to do it. If they ask for a variance, 3 people could decide that. On the BZA, the Planning Commission is 9 people, so there's 5 people. And all of those are pretty well unelected. There's 3 elected officials on the Planning Commission. Everybody else is appointed. I do not like that concept. And maybe the state statutes say that we have to do it their way. But by golly, this is Montgomery County. I grew up here. We've always been independent thinkers, and we are very unique in the state of Indiana. I'd like to keep that uniqueness. I don't think we need to appoint those members. I think Gary Booth had a great idea of using the township administrators, and their advisory board those are elected people that are right there living amongst the people that they're representing. And they are to decide what goes on in their township. And I don't know, I think this is too restrictive. I mean, it was all just happened so fast that I really think we should step back and maybe just take another look at it and just say, what else how can we fix this? I think we've had a lot of good comments tonight, a lot of good ideas. And I think it's just moving too fast myself. I'll yield for right now. That's what I got to say right now. Thanks.
Dan, I've got a question on page 21, 6.03, general requirements of B, setbacks, where it says 1 mile setback for city, towns, and schools. How does that affect the communities that have already passed an ordinance of the 4 mile?
Well, different parts of government. So the county commissioners would pass their ordinance, enforce their ordinance, and the local towns that have passed a 4 mile zone, a 4 mile no, they would enforce their own ordinances. So that's how that would work. I mean, I can't speak for those towns. They have their own ordinances and they would enforce them.
But if it's in conflict, which governmental entity takes precedent?
Neither take precedent.
Okay. Got another one on page 29, why property value guarantee. Are there any other areas comparable to where that is being done in this county where you're guaranteeing to bring somebody's property value up?
This is the only specific provision I'm aware of in county government. As someone mentioned, one of the ideas about zoning is that the whole idea of zoning is to protect property values. But this specific provision has been adopted by some counties. And so, and it has been, some people are against it, but some people have advocated before the county commissioners for a provision like this during the last 2 years. So this language is exactly the same as Kosciuszko County.
And then, for right now, on page 41, I found a misspelling in 7.08, secondary review by the Plan Commission. I think it says instead of Indiana statute, it says Indian.
You're correct.
I had a question as well, because I'm kind of waiting for John, you had your mic on. Go ahead. Just in reference to the lawsuit that we received from one of the wind companies, what is the timeline on that? Is there a certain time in which we have to respond, or like, you know what I mean? I know this kind of came up quickly, but it's because there was a lawsuit threatened. So what is the timeline that we need to work under?
We don't know. It's a threatened lawsuit, so it hasn't been filed, and whether it be filed and when, the county doesn't control that, through the other party, so it's hard to say.
Okay, thanks.
Dan, my question is, as far as the decibel levels that are listed for the windmill farms, that is only for windmill farms, correct?
That's correct. The zoning ordinances generally contain a lot of regulation about lighting, sound, colors, construction materials, that sort of thing. Now, this ordinance is pretty thin on most regulations. The only noise regulation contained in the zoning ordinance specifically is this for wind turbines.
Anyone else?
I do have a question. I believe it was Tracy that was questioning that anything would be grandfathered in. That does make provisions for grandfathering in.
Yeah, all current uses are grandfathered and would be protected as long as they're legal. There's a section in the ordinance called legal non-conforming use, and there's case law on it, but the zoning ordinance does not attempt to make any legal uses now illegal. In all current activities, and the example she used was a good one, actually, was an auto repair shop out in the country. They would be grandfathered, so they'd be allowed to continue to doing what they're doing. And the non-conforming section says they can do that as long as until they wish to expand that use. And if they wish to expand it, then they have to come get approval for the expansion. They could always do what they're doing. They wouldn't need anyone's approval for that. It was a good question.
I have another question. Reference is also made to we are increasing Section 8 housing because of the grant that we got. Is that true?
There was no Section 8 requirement to, they did housing, or an income study for us to qualify to even apply for the grant. And we had enough low to moderate income homes here that would qualify. And so as I went through the process with the lady, that I said, and we had 4 years at that survey was done to qualify for OKRA funding. And I said, well, you know, the intent of this is to grow our economy and our community. And I said, she said, that's right. And I said, well, then hopefully in 4 years, we don't ever qualify for an OKRA grant again, that would be ideal. So that's how we qualified, because we had low to moderate housing here, and that money is to help the community grow. And that's how we got the money.
I might say for clarification, the zoning ordinance doesn't address the issue of subsidized or Section 8 housing at all, nor does it address the issue of age-restricted housing or anything of that nature. Those are not addressed in the zoning ordinance. Multifamily housing is allowed in certain areas, but there are no regulations about Section 8. One of the reasons for that is that in the zoning ordinance, you're not allowed to include provisions about low-income housing. You can regulate multifamily housing in this location and situs if you would choose to. You can't hone in on Section 8 housing and make special rules about that.